hey smarty, go to a party. Girls are scared to be clad and show one body. Big walks by you with chicken sex up, but just standing on the wall like he was Poindexter.
You just tell them I'll pay him back. I'm good for it. Just get it here. Yeah. Thank you. Hey, welcome back to the Telethon. We're talking all things harm reduction here on Drugs, the musical, the Telethon. Is it a musical? I haven't heard anybody really singing around here. A couple birds chirping in the back, but that's neither here nor there. Is it a telethon? It certainly is. You can see here, I'm sure through the magic of computer technologies, there will be phone numbers to call and donate your kind and generous donations to Drugs, the musical, the Telethon. All proceeds are going to the partners in the fundraising telethon. Yeah, just keep those donations coming in. These guys are working hard, guys and girls, people. People are working hard. The guy working that light, it's working my nerves. He's working pretty hard. This guy's getting a break. This guy, he's getting paid. Oh, Lord. Recovery. Recovery. We're going to talk about recovery. That's a big part of drugs. If you're lucky, you get to move on to recovery phase, whatever that looks like for you. For me, I'll let you know. I live in a garden shed between two pompous millionaires, and my one best friend in the world has chosen them over me, and I won't fight for his love. Not with a jerk like Doug Chevrolet with a illegal taxidermy business in his garage, his maple leafs and his female bacon. I'm not getting into that. Thank you. I'll just be here quietly watching your TV and minding my own business. But if you're lucky, you get to recover. And it's different for everyone, is what they tell me at my court-appointed therapy. Here's the thing. Nobody's ever going to trust you again. Okay? You will never be allowed to work around money or, you can't, you're never around drugs or alcohol because you are, in effect, now a werewolf under the full moon. You can't trust yourself, and nobody else can either. This stuff is wonderful on paper, but I've seen it in practice, and it just doesn't work. Your best bet is to join a covenant or a convent or a fishing boat and just get the heck out of Dodge, just trap some lobsters and work on your core, or just be away from civilized society. This stuff is just from another planet. I don't even understand. It's like, okay, here's the thing. You're gonna hit rock bottom. Okay, it's inevitable. And the thing about rock bottom is, if it doesn't kill you stone dead, and believe you me, you're going to wish it did sometimes, it's going to get worse every time. Your rock bottom will get lower and lower and lower. And just when you think it can't get any lower, it'll get lower again. Like, say, for instance, you stole all of somebody's money. Then you needed some more money. But there was no one else around except for that same person whose money you stole all of already. Well, you'd go and you'd take that person and kidnap them, collect the ransom to get some more money. And when that didn't work, you might sell their organs on the black market, for instance, right? Or you might sell your own organs on the black market. And believe you me, there is a market for it. Organs are flopping out like hot dogs they are just eating them up, and it never ends. It's just an assembly line of black market organs. And you know, like, the thing is, though, sell your own, you might not even be able to get any money for them because they'd be so riddled with drugs, they'd be useless anyway. And there you are. It's a vicious cycle. It's like the baby animals on the knife mountain again. It doesn't help to know that it's inevitable. You did the time, and now you got to do the crime, right? So these people are saying, you know, there is a lot of great hope and wonderful programs for people looking to recover. I don't know about any of it. Cognitive behavioral, I don't know. I've heard that the doctors from Switzerland have developed some programs, like economy versions for poor people. So let's hear what they have to say.
Oh, hi kids, bonjour and bienvenue to Canada Rocks! Yeah! Today I have a little guessing game for you. Do you know what Canada's favorite number is? You don't know, huh? Well, I'll tell ya! Canada's favorite number is the number 12 because it has 10 provinces and 2 territories. That makes 12. Yeah, Canada. All right. The number 12. Le numéro 12. Yeah. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Hi guys, my name is Jenine, and I'm recording this video all the way from England. When I heard about Drugs the Musical, I knew it was something that I wanted to contribute to. Seeing that Joe put this together, and it's going to raise funds that are going to help support people who are in active addiction by providing essential harm reduction strategies across Canada. As somebody who accessed services in the past, I can attest to the fact how imperative harm reduction strategies are for people who are using. I also wanted to say that I know and love people who use drugs. They're worthy of services, they're worthy of support, and they're worthy of kindness. So to all of you contributing to this cause, you guys are amazing. So I'm gonna read you guys something from my darker days. Poem that I wrote. I do not want your hobo stew, rusted tin cans, dirty alley puddle water, shattered crack pipes that once held tiny roses, blood-soaked cotton, blood-soaked clothing, reused hepatitis rigs, endocarditis infected heart valves, burnt and bended spoons. No soup for the revolution in the church mission, singing hymns, bellies empty but our lungs and veins are never fed. But also eat your curried goat filled with the love of Jesus. And I thank you, Jesus, for this life. Despite all the death around me, I still wake to see another day. I don't know how or why when death would have been the sweetest of release. And I'll keep keeping on, trucking, through the snow and the fucking rain. The plastic bags in my shoes have had holes for weeks, too afraid to take them off. They're the only shoes I got to keep going. I gotta keep going. They say tomorrow's another day. Waking up in burnt out and abandoned buildings, the lead paint chipping from the walls, chipping all around me in my asbestos state, the cold reminding me I'm alive, here to see another day. Glad I'm not in that place anymore, but you know, it can happen to any of us. You guys all take care. Peace and love. God bless from England.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about recovery for sure, and just to let everyone out there know that one thing in my experience, it didn't happen overnight. I mean, you know, it took me years to get to the place where I was actually ready. You know, I could say that I wanted it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I made a lot of like, what you would call, you know, compromises. And I'm like, okay, if I stop, then this will happen for me. And if I slow down, this will happen for me. Like I tried a lot of different ways to get better, you know, and to stop using and to, you know, stop having chaos in my life. But obviously, you know, none of it worked until I came full circle, and you know, things really got bad. So I was in a place of actual total desperation when I decided to, you know, do something different. So for me, if I give you a definition for me of, you know, maintaining my recovery, so maintaining my sobriety is doing things different than I ever did before. So I had to change so much, right? Like change so much. I had to change how I thought. That was the first thing. Change how I think, because I always thought, oh, you know what, I'm entitled. I should get this because I had a rough childhood. I was neglected, so I can just take. Well, I had to change that mentality, and I had to say, hey, you know, I need to work for my stuff just like anybody else. So that was the first thing that had to change, was my mind. And I also had to change my mind about others, you know, where before my world was just all about me and what do I need and how do I get it, and I want, you know. I also had to change that and say, hey, you know, maybe somebody else needs, you know, a little more help than me, or maybe I can, you know, do better over here, and maybe I can help someone. So I had to get out of the self-centeredness as well. So that was where it really started for me, when I decided that I had to change, you know, the way I was doing things, and I had to do something different. Obviously, I had been trying so many things to stop. I left this country, you know, I left Canada. I went to live somewhere else thinking, oh, well, over there, I won't do that. You know, I'll just do this, you know, so I'll just have a little bit of this and I won't do that thing that's so damaging to me. And so I moved out of this country, you know, I took my whole family and I left, and I said, oh, I'm going to be fine now. So that geographical cure, you know, that didn't work. I tried, I went to jail, you know, several times, you know, and I didn't use while I was there. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I didn't use for these couple of months. I'm going to be fine when I get out. No, I went right back, you know. I also did more than one rehab, I got to say. And, you know, but just to get back to the fact that, you know what, it's a slow process, right? So the first rehab that I went to, at least I saw that I could stop. Like that's where the seed started to, you know, was planted. Like I could stop. And my first rehab was 6 months long. And I mean, you know, there was no cell doors there. There were no bars on the windows. I could have left at any time. So I must say that rehab is a very important part for me of how I got to where I'm at today. It was important, but it wasn't enough. It was not enough. I finished that rehab and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't owe any more debts. I have a little job now. I'm doing okay. Well, let me go celebrate. And I relapsed, you know, it was not even 2 weeks later. So that was my first rehab. I went back again and then the same thing. I didn't do anything different. I went to the rehab. I got, you know, what do they call it? Back in touch. I refreshed on what I knew before. And that still did not, you know, do the job. You know what I mean? So what I've learned, and now this experience that I got, I'm putting it into practice with Liberty House, is that if someone, you know, goes to rehab, that means they're at least one step closer to wanting to stay clean, because not everybody goes to rehab because they want to stop, right? I mean, let's get serious. It could be because the criminal justice system has you go, the probation, your family, you know, whatever. You could be going for any different reason. But once you're there, chances are you're going to get something out of it that will bring you that feeling of, hey, you know, maybe I could do this one day, or maybe I will, or maybe I won't, but at least I'll stay now and see what they have to say. So that gives us a chance to work with that person, to bring them, you know, further. So the point of Liberty House is that, in my experience, every time I left the rehab and I had nothing after, nothing concrete. So I'd be leaving, and with my clean time, and going back to the same, you know, same situation that I was in before, where I was, you know, so doing the same things, right? So nothing changed at the home front. And so that's where the idea of this, you know, reinsertion transition, you know, facility came into function. And that's what it is. It's bridging the gap, right? So I think this is an important part of recovery that a lot of people don't realize. They think, oh, well, you went to rehab. Why didn't you stop? Hey, rehab is just like it's a starting point, but it is not the rest of our life. Are we able to stay in rehab for our life? No. So that means when we get out of rehab, we have to have something to maintain our sobriety. So that is the biggest learning that I got out of all of my trials and errors in the recovery scheme of things.
All the substances of abuse, whether they're opiates or cocaine or anything else, they're actually painkillers. Some of them specifically are painkillers. But physical pain and emotional pain, the suffering is experienced in the same part of the brain. So when people suffer emotional rejection, the same part of the brain will light up as if you stuck them with a knife. The Eckhart Tolle says very nicely that addictions begin with pain and end with pain. So that all the addictions are attempts to soothe the pain. So when I work with addictions, the first question is always not why the addiction, but why the pain. And what you find is emotional loss or trauma. In the case of the severe addicts, as in the downtown East Sider, they were every single one of them traumatized. There's no women walking the streets here who had not been sexually abused, not even by accident. But you know, whether it's a sex addiction or internet or relationship or shopping or work addiction, these are all attempts to get away from distress. Keith Richards, the Rolling Stone guitarist, said, who used to have a severe heroin habit, as you know, he said that all the contortions we go through just not to be ourselves for a few hours. Well, why would somebody not want to be themselves? Because they're in too much distress and too much pain. So I don't care what they tell you about genetics or any of that choices or any of that nonsense. It's always about pain. Well, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, it's got a wonderful line in it. Whatever you do, don't try and escape from your pain, but be with it. Because the attempt to escape from pain is what creates more pain. And that's the reality with addiction. But the question is, how can people be with their pain? Well, only if they sense some compassion from somebody. So as another teacher says, only when compassion is present will people allow themselves to see the truth. So addicted people need a compassionate present which will permit them to experience their pain without having to run away from it. And all the attempts to run away, it's like another teacher says, the surest way to go to hell is to try to run away from hell. So you got to be with that pain. You just have to be with it, but you have to have some support. And we live in a society that, one way or the other, is always about instant relief, quick satisfaction, distraction. In other words, we live in a culture that is based on, both economically and psychologically, on not supporting people to be with themselves. So it's always the quick getaway. So it's very difficult to deal with addictions in a society. But yeah, it is a matter of, at some point, finding a way of being with your pain so that you can actually get to know what it's really all about.
For recovery, I think a lot of people don't understand that you don't just get over mental illness, and addiction is part of the DSM-5, right? Like, just, it is illness, right? So it's always going to be there. It gets easier. It does get easier. Being in 7 years recovery, I know that it does get easier as it goes, but there are always some parts that are gonna be there. Like cigarettes, I'm a hopeless smoker still, right? Like most recovering addicts. And you know, I'll quit for years, and then those psychological triggers, I'll be going for a long drive, it'll be years, and it will be like, you need a cigarette right now, right? So we always talk about the biological, you know, recovery, like what, you know, 3 days after you're smoking, you know, it's all out of your system, so it should be fine. But that's not how addiction works. It's really psychological triggers of how we're coping with the world around us, right? So, and especially if you've had, you know, been in active addiction for, you know, 20 years, that's a lot of psychological triggers that you're growing. So to be able to overcome all of them isn't like all at once, right? Just going cold turkey is not really that realistic. And I think that's why when harm reduction and abstinence-based programming kind of work together, because relapse is a pretty common thing. I honestly, I think you have to sometimes step back to realize that you no longer want to be in this space, right? And sometimes you have to step back 1,000 times and hit that wall 1,000 times before it really sticks. Because as I was saying before, that like our brains are damaged. We are literally regrowing synapses, and that's not an instant thing. It takes years. It's uncomfortable. It's not fun, but it's worth it, right? So, you know, every time you grow, so you have to hold you have to hold a mindset, for a new mindset for 15 minutes to have those synapses regrow. And if you hold that mindset for 15 minutes for years, hopefully that recovery synaptic pathway will grow and grow, so it's easier each time you come to it, right? So that's, you know, a lot of, I still have a lot of friends who are in active addiction, and but going towards recovery. And I always tell them, you know, slip-ups are okay, right? But a lot of the time we do addiction to shut off our mind. You need to be aware when you're doing it, because then you start to be like, oh, I don't like this feeling all too much. This doesn't really help. But not to beat yourself up over it. A lot of people beat themselves up over relapse, which is really sad, because you cannot get better through self-hatred and self-loathing. You need to get better through self-love. And every coping mechanism that we have is to help us feel better. And we should never feel ashamed or guilty about making ourselves feel better or coping with the world. We just have to be aware that some things have negative consequences more than others. So just reaching that kind of understanding and forgiveness with yourself each time, because it's a journey. It's not, again, it's not the destination, it's the journey to get there, right? And it's about that self-exploration, that self-forgiveness that really moves us forward.
The ambulance is coming.
The precious minutes.
That's the third Narcan, guys.
That can make the difference between life
They're doing chest compressions right now.
and death. Illicit drug overdoses have become tragically familiar on Vancouver's downtown east side.
Anyone called 911 yet?
In May of this year, the province marked a grim milestone. 170 deaths, the highest number ever recorded.
Yeah, you just overdosed.
What are we using today?
Same old, speed.
Jeff Hardy knows all too well the icy grip of addiction.
It would have been very easy to end up right here. This is only a few days away from anybody's addictions.
Jeff's drug of choice was alcohol.
Well, it took me 40 minutes to get to the office, and I'd hit a liquor store 3 times on the way.
Jeff Hardy had been a successful entrepreneur with a wife and family, but after years of substance abuse, he drank it all away.
I lost the business, and then I knew that I wasn't coming home, and my kids weren't talking to me.
Jeff's wife, Fern, struggled to keep the family afloat.
I was selling furniture just to feed the kids.
If there's such a thing as rock bottom, Jeff had hit it, and hit it hard.
I thought at that moment I was just going to drink myself to death.
He entered treatment programs multiple times to shake his addiction.
And I ended up getting kicked out of there for drinking 3 times.
But it would be the Phoenix Society in Surrey that would help change Jeff's life forever.
It was the structure of Phoenix that was perfect for me. It was all in that controlled environment at Phoenix that allowed you to feel secure, most importantly, gave you some independence.
There are treatment, housing, and employment programs right on site.
And that's what's beautiful about Phoenix is we have 140 people in recovery here at any given time. And you need the people in housing that are showing the way for people coming in for their first day.
Dave, what's happening, buddy?
Well, we pride ourselves on having an approach which is strength-based. And we approach things from an asset approach rather than a deficit, which for so many people is what people talk about, the things that they do wrong.
Addiction counselors like Bill Dunn had a huge impact on Jeff's time at Phoenix.
The first time that I had him in my office, I let him know, I see a very hurt person. So are you ready to get well?
Well, I remember you told me that there's that passion, it'll spark something. Yeah. Well, it did, and it was amazing. It took me 26 months to get to a place where I was okay to leave Phoenix. Scared, but okay. Wow. Big memories here.
This is the first time Jeff has been back to Phoenix in more than 2 years.
Wow, nothing has changed at all. This is where it all kind of happened. This is really neat.
But one memory is almost too painful to recall. Evan, one of Jeff's closest friends at Phoenix, died of a drug overdose.
Yeah, it's so typical today, right? What's happening out there, and you know, this guy, you know, he defenseless against it. He wasn't going to win this battle.
Out of overwhelming grief came inspiration. While still in recovery at Phoenix, Jeff would design an app that would help save lives.
I started thinking about different ways that your cell phone could help you.
It's a simple timer that users set to count down from 1 minute.
In the event that you are unable to tap the red stop button, LifeGuard app will automatically contact emergency services by calling 911.
So if you've overdosed, they're going to come right here and get you.
LifeGuard was just released in May, but has already been downloaded and used more than 2,000 times across the province.
You know, we're so proud of him and everything he's achieved, and you know, even getting family back, which I know is so important to Jeff.
It was important to me just to know them to know that was there. If we're helping people, then that's all I ever wanted. I think that's what he would say. LifeGuard's whole soul is Evan, and that's why at the very bottom of our logos it says "Empowered by Evan."
With all that's happened over the last 4 years,
we might just work our way right out across Eastern Canada, right?
Jeff is convinced this is where he was always meant to be. None of this would have been possible without Jeff's successful recovery at Phoenix.
Let them save your life. They know what they're doing. Great things are on that other side of that door. They're just waiting for you. Go get it.
recovery is a very complex process, as you're already aware, Joe. And again, it's very individualized. You have to kind of focus on different aspects of it that are specific to the client and specific to the needs of the client. So the way that I approach recovery is I talk to individuals and I ask them, what is their goal? What's your goal? Is your goal to come off all your substances, or is your goal just to taper off or taper down, or to use in a more, in an aspect that helps support you as an individual with your family and makes you get along, makes you go through your day as best possible. And once I understand that, we can start to create an action plan around that recovery, right? So a lot of times it is regarding quality of life. So we try to get them the social, like we could try to get them supports for income support, housing support, make them feel better about themselves in many respects, and again, improve their quality of life. It might mean making sure that they have safe supplies, clean supplies, sterile supplies, so that they don't get an infection, right, from using. So those are the different aspects of this. But if they want to come off their substance altogether, and they're contemplative in that aspect, we try to create a structure around that best supports them in that. So that could mean tackling spiritual aspects of this, which could mean 12-step programming, for instance. It could mean making sure that the social structures that are more conducive to supporting them. So getting them involved in mutual support groups, mutual therapy. It could mean taking care of the mental health concerns. So if they've got anxiety, depression, we want to manage that aspect too. And it could mean the biological process by getting them on pharmacotherapy. So we've got medications that are out there that can help decrease cravings for alcohol, can decrease cravings for opioids. We've got new evidence that shows that we have medications that can help decrease cravings for methamphetamines even right now, based on a new study. But we want to make sure that they're willing to take those medications, they're willing to take those supports in the first place. And that goes to the states of change and stages of change. And so, and it kind of builds in with what we talked about before with the brain. So as I talked about earlier, the frontal lobe of the brain, the front part of our brain, really helps us with executive functioning. If that's not in control, the back part of our brain, the midbrain, is what's functioning, right? And so the mid part of our brain tells us we need to get drugs to survive. We need to get substances to survive. And the frontal lobe's not kicking in, but it will sometimes kick in. And the frontal lobe is what takes us from the pre-contemplative stage to the contemplative stage, which means that we're ready for change. We're ready to make things happen. And we can go from that state of change to, say, the action phase, right? Which also tells us that we're ready to move on, to get ourselves engaged with treatment, get ourselves into support, makes us want to maintain our recovery, not stay on substances. A key piece of this also is relapse. And we know that people will relapse occasionally, sometimes often. We do know that the more times you relapse, the more likely you are to succeed in the next in your next endeavor to be in recovery, and that shifts from time to time, from place to place, and it depends on different circumstances. You might relapse because you had a very stressful day at work, or you might relapse because you lost someone that you care about in your life, or you might relapse because you had funding cut for your medications, and so now you no longer have anti-craving medications, or that your mental health deteriorates. So there's different reasons for relapse. Relapse is part of the cycle. And we try to make sure that all of our clients recognize that this is part of the natural evolution of addiction, that relapse doesn't mean a failure on your end. You haven't failed, it's just a part of recovery. And let's work on that. Let's get you back to where you want to be as an individual. And we provide supports around it.
Gonna set this bridge ablaze. Watch it burn and smoke this
different place.
I'm not looking for revenge. I'm just looking for a place that don't exist, place that won't let me pretend. I'm not looking for revenge.
This is the day of tryouts for our annual swimming meet at the Lawndale Community Club. And it's a special day for one of the boys because he's proving something that happens all the time. He's proving that you can overcome a handicap so completely that you climb right to the top. Oh, Bill hasn't won yet, but he has qualified to swim in the finals. So it is a special day for him. It's rather a special day for me, too. You see, I've been coaching Bill, and I feel I had a part in making him one of our best swimmers. But I said something about a handicap, didn't I? Well, there was a time when Bill was severely handicapped as far as swimming goes. He used to visit the pool once in a while, but it was the same story every time. He really wanted to learn to swim. But one thing was certain. He'd never learn that way. Yes, Bill had a handicap. That handicap was fear. At first, Bill's friends used to ask him to join in the fun.
Hey, Bill, come on in.
But no, there was no use. They forgot Bill was there. But Bill couldn't forget himself. He kept thinking and worrying.
Think I'm a coward, do they? Well, maybe I am. If only I weren't so afraid. I could learn to swim. I could have fun like that.
Jim, Ed, help her! Help! Hey, what's the matter? Just Janet. What is Janet? What is it? She fell. Janet, are you all right? Are you all right? What's the matter, Janet? She's fallen out the window. I'm sure you're okay.
Sure. I'm a coward. Afraid of the water. Afraid to jump in and help somebody. Well, they're not cowards. Ed or Jim. Or Janet either. They say if you fall off a horse, you should get right back on as soon as you can, so you won't be afraid of horses. I guess she's not going to let this thing worry her. Well, I'll never get over being afraid in the water, no matter how often I get in the pool. What's the use? Just wasting my time trying to swim. I'll never learn. I'll never get over being afraid. Huh.
Giving up?
Yeah, giving up, that's right.
You're Bill Brent, aren't you? My name's Barker. I'm the swimming instructor around here. I've noticed you out there. You really want to swim, don't you?
Oh, it's no use, Mr. Barker. I'm afraid. I'm a coward.
You're the first coward I've ever known that had courage enough to admit it.
Huh?
Look, I'll agree you're afraid of the water. But does that make you a coward? Most people are afraid of something. Most folks are afraid of wild animals. A lot of people are afraid of speeding cars. I am. I always get out of the way when I see one coming toward me. I guess that makes me a coward, too.
That's different. That makes sense. But being afraid of water, it's silly.
It's easy to say a fear is silly, but that doesn't necessarily help. You know, you're letting yourself get in the habit of being afraid.
In the habit?
Yes. Hey, maybe you know my kid sister. She used to be afraid of dogs. She's getting over it now, but once it was quite serious. We don't really know how that fear started, but it might well have happened this way. When my sister was very small, the people next door had a large dog. He was a rough, noisy dog, too. Kept fenced in the yard all the time. Perhaps sometime in her play, Sis came up quite close to the fence. When the dog came running toward her, she was naturally startled. And, well, if that happened several times, you can see how she might have gotten the habit of being afraid of dogs. And that habit stayed with her long after she forgot all about the first dog that frightened her.
You said she was getting over it now.
How did she do that? How did she? Well, she knew it was an unreasonable fear, and she wanted to overcome it. So she and I worked together. We figured she should know dogs. We felt she should make friends with dogs. It wasn't easy for her. We took it very slow. My knowing that a dog wouldn't hurt her wasn't enough. She had to know. She had to have experience in handling dogs, caring for them. There was a cute little puppy. How could she be afraid of him? How could she help loving the little fella? Who wouldn't come closer to a big dog for a chance to play with a puppy a little longer? Who could remain afraid of the pup's mother very long? Certainly not my sister. It takes experience, knowledge, determination, and insight to overcome fears that are not rational. But it can be done.
Maybe some people can do it, but I'm too much of a coward.
If you keep calling yourself a coward, you're apt to start acting like one. Say, didn't I see your picture in the paper the other day? Something about a bicycle ordinance, wasn't it?
Yes, I just happen to have a copy right here.
One copy. Oh, yes, here we are. You deserve to be proud of yourself. Student defends bicycle ordinance. The paper doesn't give many details. Tell me about this.
Well, you know about the new ordinance to keep bicycles off the sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really an important safety measure. But a lot of the kids didn't like it, and they held this protest meeting. Some of us thought it was a good ordinance, and I went to the meeting and said so. It seems to me, in the interest of safety, we ought to accept this rule. The least we can do is give it a fair trial. Ah, pipe down. Do you have a bicycle? Yes, I have a bike. But when I'm walking on a sidewalk, I like to feel safe. So I'm willing to ride my bike in the street. Good going, Bill. You told him. Do you agree with me?
Sure.
Well, get up and say so.
No.
Go ahead. Come on. I tried to get Ed to speak up, but he wouldn't. And the kids are still all steamed up. I don't know.
The courage of your convictions.
Huh?
About Ed. You said he wouldn't speak up even though he agreed with you. Would you say he was afraid?
Afraid? Well, I guess. But that can't be. Ed helped Janet today when she stumbled into the water. He's no coward.
The other day you stood up for what you thought right against opposition, so you're no coward. You showed what we call moral courage.
Well, maybe. Maybe I'm just a part-time coward in the water.
That's where I'd like to help. Do you want to learn how to swim?
Well,
Come on, then. Let's get started. That day, Bill started overcoming his fear. He was in the habit of being afraid. So the important thing was to get him in the habit of not being afraid. Bill learned gradually, over a period of several weeks, some of the skills he would need for swimming. As he became more skillful in the water, he also became more confident. He was ready to try actions that would have frightened him before, because now he knew he could always right himself in the water, and so needn't fear drowning. Then, as he learned more, Bill gradually eased into deeper water. If he could swim across the shallow end of the pool, he could swim across the deep end. And, of course, the better he could swim, the less Bill feared the water. And he overcame his habit of fear. He became confident. And so today is a special day for Bill. He did overcome his handicap, and very well, too. Whether or not he wins in the swimming meet, he has proved to himself and to others that he is not a coward. Well, we all have little fears which hamper us. We should take a tip from Bill. Our lives can be richer, happier,
if we overcome our fear.
Late night diner. It was 3 a.m. at Stank's 24-hour diner, and Elizabeth thought she'd just seen a man-sized cup of coffee walk into a booth at the far end of her section. Sure that she'd imagined it, she'd been working a double shift after all. She shook her head, laughed it off, and walked to the booth as she fished the pad and pen out of her apron pocket. "Can I take your," she began, stopping mid-sentence as you might expect, when she saw what was indeed a man-sized cup of coffee sitting in the booth reading the menu. "Elizabeth," said the cup, "it's me, Dad. I'm a man-sized cup of coffee now. I can explain."
Getting started. I know. I feel like I've been sitting here for hours on hours. I'm just waiting to get my fix.
Just bob your head. Just bob your head. Just bob your head. Just bob your head. Hey everybody, I brought the loot. It's a baggie full of delicious fruit. So if you're a doctor, then stay away, cause the apple man's got a bushel today. That's what we do and that's who I am, cause applesauce is my apple jam. Now everybody listen to my rhyme. If you follow the rules, we'll have a good time. Step one, fill the bases. Step two, it's easy, just put your faces. Step three, try not to drown. Step four, start chomping around. And the winner's decided, bob your head. By the person who has, just bob your head. The most apple, just bob your head. At the end of the game, just bob your head.
He's got an apple plate. Oh. You gotta eat them all. Hey. They're seasonal.
Hey. Don't worry, baby. I got a whole bag of this. Here's a verse from my favorite fruit.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny Appleseed, the apple that raps. I'm always free, I never take any naps. I'm the apple that raps. I'm the apple.
W for your wonderful crew. Oh, cause I'm on the mic. R, rapping is what I really like. And M, this is my wormy friend.
Hey, I'm the worm. I'm gonna make you squirm and squirm. Don't eat me for dinner, otherwise you end up the winner. What? That's what you want.
I just got my fix.
I think I love my wife, but I don't know where she is. Is that her? No. 416-348-2547. Pick up, baby, where are you? Maybe she's in here. If you're up there, please come down. I miss you. I think I love my wife, but I don't know what she looks like. Pick up, baby, pick up. I know, she's hiding where I least suspect it. Here I come. My parents think maybe I don't have a wife. They say we haven't seen her. She must not exist. I say, have you seen $1 million? They say no. So I say, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't. Huh. Guess I'll just sit here and try again tomorrow, just like I did yesterday, and the day before that, 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 and the day before that.
I think what Toronto, I can only speak to Toronto, lacks access to anything to do with recovery. And I think sometimes too that we forget, I know that people don't subscribe to abstinence necessarily in the harm reduction community, but I feel like, you know, there can be conversations around abstinence, because I think that probably for a lot of people, it might be the only solution. And so I think when people are ready to move in that, you have to move quickly. And we need detoxes in Toronto. We need way more detoxes, and we need treatment. There's no treatment anywhere close to Toronto that would give people the opportunity to just get a little bit out of their normal space. So we used to have a program that we could go to I don't even know if it exists. A couple times I went, took a bunch of street youth down to Dianova, Canada, and it was in Namining outside of Montreal in Quebec. And it was probably the only, is it possibly the only therapeutic community in Canada? And I think like it was so cool because it was set up, it was a huge big place out on the country, and it was set up that you had a task, and it was about teaching people that they mattered, because if you didn't chop the wood and the other 100 people got cold, well, that was on you. So you need to figure that out, and you need to negotiate that with your peers. You don't cook the food, you don't wash the dishes, then we're not eating tonight. So then you started, it helped people integrate back into accountability and being connected to people and recognizing that they have a part to play in community, and that if their job isn't done, it impacts other people. And if that impacts other people, they have to figure out how to negotiate their way out of that. Isn't that what, that's human connections, that's human all around. And we all know that what people need is community. And I think things like detoxes and rehab centers and stuff can create a new community for people. I also even think from, you know, the spot of anonymous rooms, I have a lot of clients that are totally abstinent now, but they've got quite the interesting histories. They're probably not going to win anyone over on Tinder with their jail stints and their HIV and their drug habit past. And I'm always like, let's go to an NA meeting or an AA meeting. You're going to meet people who have just as sketchy past that are on the same road of recovery as you are, and have more forgiveness for your past indiscretions. So I think detox and treatment and abstinence are really important things.
Stopping right for my pickup, diamonds hanging in the rough, shit and smoke lighting the hall. I sit and wait for you, yeah, singing songs and more high five, tons of cocaine off your thighs, and the air may fly a kite as long as I'm with you. I fuck a friend, oh goddamn night, throw up some shit and start a fire, stay in my head, sing lullabies, is all that I can do, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. That's not all, fill ourselves with Adderall, condoms laid out on the floor, as long as I'm with you, yeah. Chug another glass of wine, your forehead grease gives you a shine. Don't fuck a man, don't check the time, that's all that we can do, yeah. That fuck boy you're with looks like fly, shout your name, still blood's inside. Paramedics ask alright, I say cause I'm with you, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your dick out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah. Whip your tits out, let's smoke crack cocaine, yeah.
everybody. How you doing, folks? I bet you're down to attack up the tiny monuments this weekend, but don't forget it's also another season. What's that sound?
Hockey's in the air!
You know it, the Tonawanda Blades are back, the WNY AHL's top-rated team in the Western Conference.
2 tickets for you!
That's right, you come in and check out a car. I mean check out, don't even buy it. Come in, check out that car, use your eyes, look at that car. 2 Tonawanda Blades, tickets for you. WNY AHL's top-rated team in the C-League within the top 3 standings of the last 3 seasons. You can't beat that kind of hockey, can you?
No, I wouldn't even try.
It'd be silly.
your breakers at the table. Don't worry about running out of paper. Don't worry about running out of paper. I can only work on my own echo chamber. You cannot acknowledge that. See you later.
Truth of the matter is, truth is vapor.
Don't worry.
You know me.
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 Don't worry.